Brian, good to see you. Yep.
Happy New Year to you.
And to you as well.
All right, coming up on this March primary, getting ready for that. One of the topics that we were talking about before the show was term limits. Texans want it. We think the nation wants it. What are you hearing?
Well, you're absolutely right, Brian. It's just not a Texas thing. It's in all 50 states, and you know, there's been a number of politicians politicians that have retired and ones that are currently in office that have espoused the idea of term limits. We even have some here in Texas. But what they haven't done, which I intend to do, is act on it. So I think the term limits are extraordinarily important for one reason, is it roots out corruption in the system. So I'm not going to point my finger at anyone, but to say that my concept of term limits is that you should have objectives and certain goals that you need that you want to accomplish, whether you're running in the lower chamber or the higher chamber of Congress. And if you can't get it done within a term, within a certain time frame, then you should move on, or you should accomplish those goals and go on. The idea, the way I've said it kind of on the stump, is that politicians should not make Congress their second home. Yeah,
right? And you also see it in the private life. I mean, a company wouldn't keep somebody on staff that wasn't performing, so why should the government?
Right, and the approval rating for most of them up there is very, very low. And you know, my opponent, the person I'm running against, has a less than 35% approval rating in the state of Texas. And so, you know, if he's successful this time around, you're talking about 24 years in Washington. You know, Texans don't want that. They really don't. And it's not just for this, you know, for this particular individual, but it's for all of them. You know, they need to be turned out. Listen, we have the president is, you know, the executive branch is like that. They have 2 terms. So, you know, if you look at folks like Pelosi and McConnell, the list goes on, Cornyn and the rest of them. I mean, McConnell's been there for something like 40 years or something. Right. I mean, so it needs to stop.
Let's talk about education real quickly. That's on a lot of people's mind as well, obviously. What's your ideas on that?
Well, I think it needs to be handled at the state level. You know, it's much better. We've got an extraordinarily, an exemplary school system in most districts of the 254 counties that we have in the state of Texas. And we happen to be fortunate here in Dallas, where we live around school districts that are exemplary. They're very, very good. The Department of Education is a complete waste. There's no way, in the Constitution, in Section 1, Article 8, it states nowhere in there that there is, by the power of the purse, to use taxpayer money to fund something called the Department of Education. So it needs to be abolished. Now, along those same lines, there's been a number of politicians, including the one that I'm running against, who has espoused, as I go to Washington, I am going to abolish the Department of Education. Well, that person has been there for 19 years and it's still there. And it costs the American taxpayers, I've seen different numbers, but somewhere between $65 and $80 billion a year. I would advocate for taking that money and on a pro rata basis, based on the size of the state. We have 28 million people here. We have 40 million in California, that type of thing. New Hampshire's, you know, about this big. So we just, on a pro rata basis, we take that money by abolishing the Department of Education and distribute it to the states. So our kids are going to be much better off. The educators are going to be better off. The children are going to have a better outcome. And the administrators are going to have a better outcome if it's run at the state level as opposed to the bureaucracy back in Washington.
There you go. As you get ready for your March run up against John Cornyn. Been traveling the state, staying busy, right?
Yeah, every day we're doing something. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. It's like drinking from a water hose. But we're having a great time and really enjoying meeting, you know, a lot of people that, you know, in the great state of Texas. And you know, the more we get out, it's just amazing. We've been kind of in our own bubble since I've been in the private sector for 33 years, you know. And so now I'm all over the state and I'm meeting all walks of life, and I'm really enjoying it.
Best website for someone to get more information about you?
It's voteformark.com is my website. And of course, Facebook has which is Yancey for U.S. Senate, has you know, it has a lot of information. There's about 2,000 plus followers on there, and a lot of exchanges of data on there.
There you go. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you.